Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Nam Nam Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Hare Krishna
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Nam Nam Nam
Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Rama Krishna
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna
Rama Nam Nam Nam
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare
Rama Hare
Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Rama
Hare
Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama Nam
Rama
Nam Nam Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama Nam Nam
Hare
Nam
Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Rama
Hare Rama Nam Nam Nam
Hare Rama
Hare Krishna
Rama
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Nam Nam
Hare
Nam
Rama Rama Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Rama Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare
Nam Nam Hare
Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna
Ram Ram
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Rama
Krishna
Nam
Krishna
Nam Nam
Hare Hare Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Nam 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 Hare
Ram
Krishna
Hare Hare
Krishna
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 Hare 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 Rama Nam Nam
Ram
Nam
Hare Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare Krishna
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 Ram
Krishna Hare
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 Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna
Ram Hare
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna
Hare Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Ram Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Rama Nam 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nam Nam Nam
Kalpatarubhyascha
Hare
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nam
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा, दिस इज श्याम सुप्रिया देवी दासी from Houston, welcoming all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. And I thank sincerely each and every devotee for joining this chanting session and giving your very, very sweet association this morning. And I sincerely ask for forgiveness for stopping your blissful chanting. Thank you to each and every Mataji for giving your association during this chanting time. And now we will move to our next part of our session, that is our special class on Radhashtami. And before starting this class, can I know who are all joining this morning today?
हरे कृष्णा श्याम से प्रिया माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय प्रीति दासी फ्रॉम शार्लोट हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna, Priti Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for joining this call and giving your very sweet association, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा
Dandavat pranam. Yes. Namaste. Sundari.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna. And by the way, Mataji, your voice is breaking, Mataji.
My voice is breaking, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, little bit. Now it's clear, but previously it was breaking.
Oh, sorry, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashomati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very sweet association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sham Supriya Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vilta Gandharvika Devi Dasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very sweet association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Guru and Gauranga and assembled Vaishnavas. This is Radharani Devi Dasi from Gurugram, India.
Hare Krishna, Radharani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, all the way from India, joining the sessions and giving you a very sweet association this morning. I think it is evening for you. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shukriya Mataji, Shama Shukriya Mataji, Dandvat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava, Koti Koti Dandvat Pranam to Radha Gopi, Radhabhava, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the sessions and giving your very sweet association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Ananya from India.
Hare Krishna, Ananya. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much from joining from India all the way and giving your very wonderful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Krishna Priya from New Jersey. Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Priya Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your very beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna, Radhabhava Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving your precious time and association and joining this call, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Mataji, you're on mute, Mataji. We cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna Mataji's Dhanvat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Anybody would like to introduce themselves? Okay. So as Mataji is present on call, if there are no more introductions, so we can start the call. So Mataji, can anyone start the recording, please? Hare Krishna. I welcome all the devotees to our Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call of our special class on Radhashtami, the appearance of Srimati Radharani, and to enlighten us on this special topic, we have with us a special speaker, Her Grace Radhabhava Mataji. So Mataji, before handing over to you, I just like to read the quote for the day from Srila Prabhupada's quotes. September 2nd, spiritual master's qualification is he is trying his best to deliver the soul from these clutches of Maya. That is a great service. Therefore, he is very dear. One who is chanting or executing devotional service for his personal benefit, and one who is trying to deliver others for others' benefit, there is difference. Jai. Delhi, September 2nd, 1976. Hare Krishna Mataji, I hand over the call to you. Thank you so much for coming on the Bhakti Sangha on this tomorrow's special day and giving us special class, Mataji. Please take over the call. Hare Krishna. Mataji, you are on mute, Mataji.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for being here today at Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to glorify Srimati Radharani on the occasion of Radhashtami. So with this, we'll start with Mangala Charan. Om Ajnantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. So let us all absorb our consciousness and let us all drown our consciousness in the glories of Srimati Radharani. Because it is because it is Radhashtami tomorrow, on this occasion I was asked to speak about glories of Srimati Radharani, but I must admit some hesitancy to speak about Srimati Radharani, because as we all know, it is a very deep and confidential subject matter. Actually, there are only a few mentions of Radharani in Vedic scriptures. And as you know, even in our Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been mentioned indirectly, not directly, but indirectly in verse 10.30 in Canto 10, 30.28. And I think we all know this verse, but I'll repeat it. It goes like this. Anayaradhito nunam Bhagavan Haririshvaraha Yanno Vihaya Govindaha Pritoyam Anayadraha. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that the word Aradhita refers to Srimati Radharani here. And the translation of this beautiful verse is, certainly this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful personality of Godhead, Govinda, since he was so pleased with her that he abandoned the rest of us and brought her to a secluded place. This is the translation. So even some poets like Jayadev Goswami, they did write about Srimati Radharani and in previous times, but her full glories were only revealed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the 6 Goswamis 500 years ago. So one might question, why did the world have to wait so long for her to be introduced to us? Well, our acharyas have actually commented that the Lord ordered Yogamaya to make those few portions of Vedic scriptures describing her very difficult to understand, until the Lord himself appeared to reveal her glories as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, one of her names in the Vedas It is Veda Gopya. That means she who is hidden in the Vedas. So, but we should understand that this is one of the great contributions amongst the many that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers have given to the world, revealing us the glories of Srimati Radharani. Now, historically speaking, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, that era, there were only deities of Krishna. We had never heard of Radharani. So all the 6 Goswamis also, if you see, their worshipable deities were Madan Mohan. So Sanatan Goswami, he found only Madan Mohan alone, without Radharani. There was no Radharani. Even Rupa Goswami, he found only Govindaji alone. Madhu Pandit also found Gopinath alone at Vamshivat. So and so on, etc. All the deities were Krishna alone. But in the time of the 6 Goswamis, they wrote extensively about Srimati Radharani. And then Janava Mata, which is the wife of Nityanand Prabhu, she eventually established deities of Radharani for most of the Goswami deities. And the tradition has then continued down to the present day. As we all know about, it is our dear beloved Srila Prabhupada who established the worship of Radha and Krishna all over the world. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So it is because of Srila Prabhupada that we are having access to the worship of Srimati Radharani in all the temples also. So therefore, as members of ISKCON, we never worship Krishna alone. We always worship him along with Srimati Radharani. There is a very amazing verse in Gopal Sahasranam, and it is verse 17. It is Gopal Sahasranam is recited by Lord Shiva to his wife, Mother Parvati. There, the verse is like this: Gaura Tejo Vinayastu Shama Teja Samarchayet Japed Vadhyate Vapi Sabhavet Patiki Shive. It means, O Devi Parvati, O auspicious one, anyone who worships, meditates, or glorifies Sri Krishna without his beloved Sri Radha, thinking that they are separate from each other, is certainly sinful. Very powerful. So we have to understand that Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Srimati Radharani both have a golden effulgence, Gaura Tejo. So I hesitate to speak about Srimati Radharani for this reason, and it is a very deep subject matter, but I feel that we could attempt this with the permission of Srila Prabhupada. There is a Radhashtami lecture by Srila Prabhupada, which was delivered in London on August 29th, 1971, where Srila Prabhupada said, these, of course, are very transcendental topics. It is a great science. Only one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness and who is well conversant with the Shastras can understand such things. But still, we can discuss from the Shastras. So, in the last statement, he said, but still, we can discuss from the Shastras. So, when Krishna wanted to understand himself, he adopted the mood of Srimati Radharani, and that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta, after he departed from Vrindavan in 1965, he left his home at Radha Damodar temple. And after compiling and translating purports of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he came to Mumbai. And he came to Mumbai and he stayed in Mumbai for some time. And he was giving lectures. He was putting Srimad Bhagavatam in various bookstores. And he was connecting with many people. And there, when he came to Mumbai, he got special mercy of Srimati Radharani and Krishna's mercy in the Juhu temple area, where he made connection with Srimati Morarji, who was the owner of the cargo ship company. And there she offered him great respect because she respected him as a sadhu. She felt that he was a true carrier of the message of true Vaishnavism. So when they established a relationship, he asked, he pleaded, and he begged her for a free passage on her cargo ship to New York. It was a 30-day journey at sea. And he, Prabhupada, our dear Prabhupada, was turning 69 years old. Srimati Morarji was very experienced. She knew what it was like on the cargo ship. So she warned him that, "Oh Sadhu, Srila Prabhupada, you will die if you go through this voyage. The America is very cold. It's not for old people like you. And not only that, the people in America, they are also very cold to what you have to say and teach." But Srila Prabhupada was begging for this opportunity. He was even willing to give up his very life. He was willing to endure poverty, starvation, rejection. And he was begging her to give him a chance so that he could follow the orders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He wanted to follow his Guru Maharaj's orders. And what was the orders? That orders were to spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world, especially in English language, because it was a universal language which most people would understand, and that language would be able to broadcast the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as we know, he was truly the perfect representative of the 6 Goswamis, and he represented Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's parampara very well. So he has mentioned that the highest perfection of spiritual life is to attain Radha Dasyam, that is, to be the servant of Srimati Radharani. In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also taught us in the prayers, which is the prayer of highest aspiration. It should be the prayer of our highest aspiration. And that is Gopi Bhartur Padakamala Yor Das 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 Anudas. To be the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. And all the gopis, what are they doing? They are all serving Srimati Radharani. Once Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was asked, by what means can one receive the complete mercy of Sri Krishna? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur replied, when Sri Varshabhanavi, who is Varshabhanavi? She is the daughter of Rishabhanu, that is Srimati Radharani, accepts someone as one of her own, as a Rupanuga, as one of the followers of Rupa Goswami, then only is the full mercy of Krishna accessible to him. He can only attain this fortune if he can become a Kinkari of Sri Guru. And Guru, who himself is a servant of Srimati Radharani. What is a Kinkari? Kim means what? Kari means to do. So Kim Kari is one who is asking, how can I serve you? What can I do? So our goal should be to be the Kinkari of Guru Maharaj who serves Srimati Radharani. So this should be our aspiration. In order to perform bhajan, those who study Srimad Bhagavatam must know the name of their venerable deity. For one can only perform bhajan if there is good Naam Sadhana. One cannot begin his bhajan directly from Leela. It is inappropriate to hear the glories and pastimes and Leelas of Radha and Krishna without having a strong bhajan in the form of Naam Sadhana. It is said in the scriptures, even Jiva Goswami has mentioned in his Krama Sandarbha commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.18, Jiva Goswami says, a person must first hear and chant the holy names to achieve purity of consciousness. Thereafter, after that, when his heart has become pure and cleaned, it is a fit place for appearance of the Lord's beautiful form. So our sadhana, our chanting, our daily chanting of 16 rounds or more must be very strong. As soon as the Lord's form will thoroughly manifest after the Lord's form has come, as soon as the Lord's form thoroughly manifests in his heart, as a result of hearing descriptions of that form, the bhakta, the devotee, will experience revelations about the Lord's qualities. As Lord's qualities fully start unfolding, the defining characteristic, that is his form, qualities, pastimes, all start appearing in the heart. And only after that can we think of hearing the Leelas. So we have to understand that hearing about the pastimes of Srimati Radharani requires a lot of progression in our sadhana. And in this way, we should prepare our heart and consciousness. Therefore, without spiritual understanding of Srimati Radharani's position, we may commit offenses by seeing her as an ordinary personality. Thus, if we have to understand her glories, the prerequisite is very deep, sincere sadhana under the guidance of our spiritual master. And we should remember that when we discuss topics about Srimati Radharani and her pastimes, we must remember that we are not discussing an ordinary personality. We are discussing about the consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, who is the origin, the creator, and the maintenance of the entire creation. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. She is, Srimati Radharani is the pleasure potency of Golokanath, the master of Goloka Vrindavan. She is part of his most confidential pastimes, dear friends. Srimati Radharani is part of Shri Krishna's most confidential pastime. Therefore, we have to qualify ourselves to serve Srimati Radharani. Thus, without Nam Sadhana, no one can make advancement and no one can qualify themselves to serve Srimati Radharani. And when one hears the Leelas of Srimati Radharani, we must not hear it in the mood of entertaining ourselves or as an amusement. These topics of Srimati Radharani, they are not meant for enjoyment. We must hear these topics and Leelas about Srimati Radharani with profound reverence and respect, knowing and constantly reminding ourselves that we are hearing about our dear Sham Sundar's Praneshwari. She is the heart and soul of Krishna. And topics about Srimati Radharani are very, very sweet and most enjoyable. The topics about Radha and Krishna are the most exalted, but they are not meant to be heard for entertainment. They should be heard with the mood to make spiritual advancement, for our purification, to develop intense attachment to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Krishna with utmost humility. Then, when with this mood we approach these topics, we will have the desired results. What is the desired result? The desired result is advancement in spiritual life and attaining the love of Godhead through purification of our consciousness. So in discussions also between the Ramanand Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was discussed that how can conjugal love be attained, and what is the highest perfection of that conjugal love. So that was also discussed, and it was discussed that the highest perfection of conjugal love is in Srimati Radharani's love for Shri Krishna. Then at last he described the position of Srimati Radharani and the transcendental mellows of love of Godhead. So without the consent of Krishna, not even a leaf can move. Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the prime cause of all causes. And this supreme master of the creation aspires to serve and please our dearmost Srimati Radharani. Thus, these topics which we are going to discuss now are very difficult to understand. They are not spoken frequently and not for general audience. But if we develop this mood of offenseless service to Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna and towards these Leelas, we can discuss them and relish them and share them between confidential devotees. Srila Jayadev Goswami was living in Champahati with his wife Padmavati in a small hut, and he was composing Geet Govind through his realizations and revelations. He was personally seeing the Leelas, and he was composing and writing because of his purity, he was seeing the Leelas and he was writing them. He was seeing the Leelas and writing them in beautiful poetic composition. Can you all imagine how exalted he must be? He's actually entering the Leelas, visualizing them, and he has been given this ability to poetically write down what he's seeing. And in that poetry, he was visualizing that Srimati Radharani gets very angry with Sri Krishna. She goes in man. Man is called transcendental anger. In Sanskrit, anger is called man, which is transcendental anger. And here, Krishna is trying to pacify her in Barsana. And he is visualizing this. And Sri Krishna is begging to Srimati Radharani, the master of the universes, the creator of the universes, is begging to Srimati Radharani. Oh Devi, he's saying, I'm asking you for forgiveness. By holding his ears, he's asking for forgiveness. And he's telling her, I promise you that I will not do this again. You please be merciful with me. You please be happy with me. And then he says, okay, I'm now giving you my flute. Here is my flute. And he places his flute at Radharani's lotus feet. And then she's still not pacified. And then he offers her peacock feather. And he says, okay, I'm offering my peacock feather, Radharani, at your lotus feet. Please forgive me now. She's still not pacified. And then he takes out his crown and he places it at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is still not pacified. And then Krishna himself starts crying and he's washing Radharani's lotus feet with his tears. And then he's begging Srimati Radharani, please place your lotus feet on my head. This was the situation which Jayadev Goswami was visualizing. And it was fathomless for him. He was hesitating to write this. And this verse is, it's part of Geet Govind. It goes like this. It's Smara Garala Khandanam, Mama Shirasi Mandanam, Dehi Pada Pallam Udaram, Dehi Pada Pallam Udaram. It means, oh my beloved Srimati Radharani, Cupid's powerful poison is devastating me. Please be merciful to me and place upon my head the cooling tender petals of your lotus feet. He's asking Radharani to place her lotus feet on his head. And Jayadev Goswami was hesitating. It became very heavy for him, you know, when things become very heavy for us. So this is spiritual heaviness. So he started experiencing spiritual heaviness. So he put his pen down and he couldn't write further. And then he decided to go and take a bath in the Ganga. And then, you know, we all know this story that when he came back, Krishna himself appeared and he wrote this verse for Jayadev Goswami. So it's not that it was below Krishna's dignity to write this, where he was asking Srimati Radharani to place her lotus feet on his head. This is only a material conception which we have. Like if, you know, we have a fight between husband and wife, and then we want to censor the news, and, you know, we want to have those behind closed doors where the wife is scolding her husband, she's chastising her husband, and she doesn't want, or he doesn't want anyone to know. It's not like this in the spiritual world. Krishna is very happy. He takes pride in glorifying Srimati Radharani. So here, Bhagwan, Sri Krishna, is not hesitating, and he's willing to do it again and again, not just once, not just twice, but for his beloved, to please her and pacify her, he's willing to do this Leela again and again, where he's bowing down at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani and asking her to place her lotus feet on his head. And sometimes even this does not help, my dear devotees. Even this does not help. So in that case, our dear Lalita Sakhi, it was her appearance day yesterday. Our dear Lalita Sakhi and Vishaka Sakhi, they come for help. And then they go back and forth to Radharani and back to Krishna, and Radharani and back to Krishna. And then finally, Radharani is pacified in some way. So Lord Krishna, who is very difficult to obtain even by yogis, all the jnanis, all the people who have all the knowledge and who have performed all the austerities, this Lord, Sri Krishna, is aspiring to worship the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. Can you all just imagine the position of Srimati Radharani? It's a very beautiful shloka which is given in Brihad Gautamiya Tantra. It says, Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Sammohini Para. It means Devi, that is Srimati Radharani, Krishna Mai Prokta, that means one who is non-different from Sri Krishna, is called Radhika. Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva, means she is the most worshipful and she presides over all the goddesses of fortune. Kanti Sammohini Para, and she possesses the splendor and completely bewilders Sri Krishna. She is the supreme internal potency of the Lord. So, and amongst all the gopis, Krishna aspires to be with Radharani alone, even in Ras Leela. So that is a position of our dear Srimati Radharani. So with this said, I wanted to take the opportunity and permission to speak a few very sweet pastimes of Radharani and Krishna. So we all know that in Braj Leela, the biggest disturbances were caused by demons which were sent by Kansa. And every time Krishna was with the gopis, or he was having pastimes with his mother, or he was having pastimes with the Vrajvasis, the demons would come and they would attack them. And there's a very sweet pastime where we will experience, now we have till now experienced the strength of the Supreme Lord Krishna. We saw how he killed the Asuras and how all the Asuras were scared of him. Kamsa was also scared of him. But for every battle he had with the Asuras, he had to be on the battlefield and he had to show his strength, he had to show his prowess and power. And that's how he was cheered by all the Gopas, all the Vrajvasis. But today we will hear a very sweet pastime where we will experience the power and strength of our Swamini, Srimati Radharani. Once, it goes like this. Once Kamsa, he entered Vrindavan to search for Krishna, the cowherd boys, and Balaram. And he, along with his troops, he kept searching for them. And he went in the interiors of Vrindavan. And then he reached Barsana. And before Kamsa, before the king, you know, all ministers always go ahead of the king. They make way and they make sure everything is fine. So before Kamsa, all his army, all his troops went before him. And they entered Barsana. And then Kamsa was coming from behind with his horse. And when he entered Barsana, all of a sudden, all his ministers, his troops, they turned into rocks and stones as soon as they entered Barsana Dham. And when Kamsa entered, he came riding on his black horse and he came to this place called Bhanukhar. There's a very beautiful place called Bhanukhar. It's like a Jal Mahal and there's a kund there. And it's a confidential pond where Srimati Radharani and her close associates bathe. So Kamsa, he came on his horse and he started searching for where are his troops. He's saying, where are all my ministers? I don't see anybody. And he kept riding and he arrived at this Bhanukhar. And so when he came there, so Kamsa comes there. And so this demoniac Kamsa, you know, let's give a little introduction to Kamsa. We all know Kamsa was very demoniac. He killed so many children of Devaki. It is said that Kamsa was even more stronger than Ravan. Ravan actually, it is said that could not even shake Lord Shiva's bow. But this Kamsa was so strong. He had the strength of 1,000 elephants. He picked up Shiva's bow and he strung it 100 times. That was his strength. He was nothing compared to Ravan. And then Parshuram gifted Kamsa this Shiva Dhanush. That was the strength of Kamsa. And also he lifted Kuvalyapid and whirled him around and threw him. And, you know, Kuvalyapid had the strength of 1,000 elephants. Even Jarasan was scared of Kamsa to the extent that he did not want to accept any animosity with him. So what he did, he got all his daughters married to Kamsa. just so that he could befriend him and he would never have to face attacks from Kamsa. That was Kamsa's strength. And now this Kamsa has come to our Barsana, and he stood there near Bhanukar. He stood there where Srimati Radharani and her gopis were taking a bath. And as soon as he came there and stood there, he suddenly, what happened? He turned into a female body. Kamsa became a gopi, and he realized that he and his horse both had assumed a female form. So the horse had become a mare, the female of a horse, and he had become a fat gopi. How? How was that? This was because he had entered into the territory of Srimati Radharani. He didn't fight. He did not attack. He did not have to use his strength. He did not have to wage a war. There was no war announced. Nothing like that was done. But just by the influence of Srimati Radharani's power, he had to be punished because he entered her territory and he became a female body. And then all the gopis realized that this was Kamsa Maharaj. And then they realized that he had turned into a gopi and he was called Kamsini Gopi. And they all started clapping their hands. And Kamsa became so embarrassed and he was shocked that he had become the laughing stock, the king of Mathura, one of the strongest personalities on the universe. He had turned into a fat gopi, Kamsini Gopi. And how could he now face the residents of Mathura? How could he face the kings? How could he face the asuras which he had sent? Trinavarta, Putana, they would see him in that female body. And he was very embarrassed. And my dear devotees, for 6 months, Kamsa was made to make cow dung cakes. He was made to milk cows. And he was made to clean cow dung. He was made to clean the cows. And he was given all the services that a simple Vrajvasi gopi does. But he was very sad. This is very sad. He was so sad doing all this. There's a very sweet lesson to learn from this. The gopis at Vraj, they do this task for years after years. Daily with love and affection, they're singing Radha Krishna's pastimes, they're making butter, they're making cow dung cakes, they're taking care of the cows. All this in meditation of Radha and Krishna pastimes. Every day there's a Leela, and next day all the Vraj gopis are singing about that beautiful Leela in Vrindavan. But Kamsa here was crying. He was sad, unhappy, fussy while doing all these tasks, which are easily available to him. Why? Because his mood and consciousness was wrong. He didn't like Krishna. He didn't like Srimati Radharani. So much mercy was bestowed upon him. Can you imagine? How many of us can enter Barsana Dham and become a gopi? But Kamsa was so fortunate that he became a gopi in Barsana Dham. What fortune! Forget gopi. We cannot even think of becoming a stone in Barsana Dham, not even a blade of grass, not even a dust particle. And even Lord Brahma, Uddhav, they want to become a stone or a blade of grass or dust particle, but even they are not getting permission. But see the fortune of this rascal Kamsa. But see how unfortunate he is. Why? Because his consciousness is polluted. And then he's crying. So after 6 months of service in Barsana Dham, once Rishabhanu Maharaj had come to Yavat. And when he came to Yavat, he saw Kamsa Maharaj there. He had an idea that Kamsa had come and his daughter Srimati Radharani had turned him into a gopi. So as soon as Rishabhanu Maharaj came, Kamsini Gopi, she approached Srimati Radharani and she started begging forgiveness again and again. She had realized by now that Srimati Radharani is the leader of all the gopis. He had realized that it is only by her influence I have become this gopi. So Kamsa started offering danvats to Srimati Radharani and started begging to let him go and give him back his male body. Have you ever heard Kamsa giving danvat to Krishna and begging to him? Never. We have never seen that. He was only criticizing Krishna, thinking of him in the bad way to kill him. But here, Kamsa is giving dandavats repeatedly to Srimati Radharani to let go of him. But he begged. But Srimati Radharani was not willing. Can you assess the power of Srimati Radharani? So without fights, without any troops, without attacks, with no efforts on her end, she just made him a gopi and crippled him and all his nefarious activities. Then Rishabhanu Maharaj again came and he told Srimati Radharani and he requested her. He said, look, this is Kamsa Maharaj. We pay taxes to him. Let him go. We also have to deal with him, maintain good relations. Even Nanda Baba, he goes, pays taxes. All of us have to go and pay taxes. Let him go. So Srimati Radharani, she looked at Kamsa angrily and she raised her finger and she said, I'm letting you go this time, Kamsa. Beware. Next time, if any of you from your army or you come in my territory, I will permanently make you a gopi. And now she told him, go and bathe in this Kishori Kund. So there's a Kishori Kund in Yavat. She told him, now go and take your bath there. So Kamsa and his horse, they jumped in Kishori Kund. And as soon as they came out, they attained their original male form. And as soon as he got on his horse, he just ran and jumped on his horseback and he drove away and he ran away that he never looked behind again, thinking that maybe Radharani will change her mind. So this is the real power of our Swamini. So the real fear Kamsa had was not of Sri Krishna. He feared Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani ki jai. So now let us go a little deeper into the qualities and pastimes of Srimati Radharani, which are all purifying. We have seen many deities of Radha and Krishna, but there are some unique deities where Srimati Radharani has different poses. So most ISKCON deities we know have Radharani in that has a dancing pose. And there's a very sweet reason behind it. It is said, the Vrajvasis believe that if Sri Radharani has a dancing pose, Sri Krishna will never leave her. So that is the reason most of our ISKCON deities have a dancing pose. And actually there are a number of poses of Srimati Radharani as a deity form next to Sri Krishna mentioned in Govinda Lilamrit. And there's also a traditional position with two hands in front of her in Gaudiya Vaishnav tradition, where she's holding two bunches of flowers in her hand. And you can see this pose in Navadvip Dham in Yogapeeth, where Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made his appearance there, and where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Maharaj, he established these beautiful deities where Radharani's hands are in front and she's holding flowers. But there's a pose of Srimati Radharani in London and Paris, of Sri Radha London Ishwar and Sri Radha Paris Ishwar. That is a very unique pose. These two temples, you will see that Radharani's right hand is giving blessings and her left hand is down, it goes down, and it is holding a lotus flower. And there is a very, very beautiful pastime described by a Vaishnav saint named Yadunandan. And this Yadunandan saint was a disciple of Srinivas Acharya. And he wrote a book called Manjari Shringar Rahasya. And there he's explaining why Srimati Radharani has this particular pose where her right hand is giving blessings and her left hand goes down holding a lotus flower. So this sweet pastime goes like this. One time, Srimati Radharani was paying special attention to dressing and ornamenting herself, hoping that she will soon meet Krishna that day. And the shringar, shringar is a whole devotional art behind the way Srimati Radharani and Krishna and all the Vrajvasis dress. It's a science. And these ornaments, when they wear them, they pass a special message, especially when Srimati Radharani and Krishna wear ornaments in a particular way, they pass a special message. And as we all know, Radha and Krishna are not allowed to speak because of social customs. When they come together, they're not allowed to look at each other publicly. They're not allowed to glance. They're not allowed to make hand movements or gestures. It's very strict for them. So how do they communicate? But Yadunandan Acharya describes that they communicate through their dress and ornaments. And how is that? So for example, when Srimati Radharani, she wears a half moon ornament on her forehead. It's a signal to Krishna to meet when the moon is half full. And then when there are 8 dots on one side of her face, we call them gopi dots nowadays. So when there are 8 dots on one side of her face, it's a signal to Krishna that she will come to their meetings with 8 of her girlfriends. And when she has 8 dots on the other side of the face also, that means total 16 dots, then it means that she will meet Krishna with her 16 gopi friends. Now, at the end of the gopi dots, when there are peacocks on both sides, it means she's telling Krishna, Krishna, do you remember when we were talking about peacocks in that particular kunj? We will meet in that same kunj where we were talking about peacocks the other day. So these are signals to Krishna. Now, when the peacocks, which are drawn on her face, they face her cheeks, it means that Krishna, we can meet and we will be able to get close to each other and talk. And when the peacocks are facing away from each other on her cheeks, it means that we will have to keep distance because so many of your cowherd boys will be there. So this is the way Radharani communicates. Now, when there are 3 dots on Srimati Radharani's chin, it means Krishna, you can bring 3 cowherd boys with you. Now, these particular cowherd boys are very special. They are called Priya Narmasakhas. That means they are very close associates of Krishna. The chief Priya Narmasakha is actually Madhumangal. And you know, Madhumangal, everyone knows Madhumangal. He's that funny Brahman cowherd boy. We'll soon hear about him. This cowherd boy is very fat with a big tummy, and he always likes to feast on laddus and sweets. And he's the only one actually. He's the only Priya Narmasakha, the one and only, who has actually witnessed Ras Leela. Nice, right, to know that Madhumangal is the only one who has witnessed Ras Leela. No one else, no other Priya Narmasakha or cowherd boy has. So all these boys, Priya Narmasakhas, are allowed to facilitate Radha and Krishna pastimes, but not too close. But the chief amongst them is Madhumangal. Now, if there's only 1 dot, it means you can only bring Madhumangal on her chin. 3 dots means you can bring 3 Priya Narmasakhas. 1 dot means you can bring only Madhumangal. If there's no dot, then Srimati Radharani is indicating that Krishna, you must meet me alone. Now, when Srimati Radharani wears kadamba flowers in her hair, it signals to Krishna that we have to meet under the shade of a kadamba tree. And when she wears champak flowers, it means we have to meet under the shadow of the champak tree. This is how the indications are relayed. Now, when she wears only 1 earring with 2 more earrings hanging from the first, it signifies the time of the meeting. So 1 ring, 2 and 3. So 1 earring signifies 1 danda, which is 24 minutes. So if she's wearing 3 earrings, 1, 2 and 3, it means we will meet in 3 dandas, which means 72 minutes. Krishna, we will be meeting soon in 72 minutes. So this is the science of shringar. So this is how they communicate at what time we will meet, what location we will meet, and whom you can bring along with you, and how our pastimes will go on. So on this particular occasion, when Srimati Radharani was dressing in a various way, Lalita Sakhi spoke up and she said, today we will ornament you with a shark-shaped earring. And she said, because Shyam Sundar Krishna is like a shark and your ear holes are like the ocean and the shark cannot live without the ocean, so that way Krishna also cannot live without you. And whenever Krishna sees these shark-shaped earrings, he will remember that his life is nothing without you. So now Lalita Sakhi is also adding flavor to the entire shringar. So in this way, Srimati Radharani started her day. And with great hopes, she had great hopes of encountering Krishna that day. And you know, Purnamasi plays, Yogamaya plays a great role in getting Radha and Krishna together. So Radha Krishna did cross paths that morning. And by studying Srimati Radharani's shringar, Krishna could understand when and where to meet her that day. But as we know, Krishna is often late. for all their rendezvous, for all their meetings. Krishna is late for various reasons. Someday he's stuck with Chandravali, someday he's stuck with his mother, someday some other gopi meets him in the way. So on this occasion, Srimati Radharani, she became very upset. She was very upset with Krishna. And she went into her transcendental man, that is transcendental anger. And of course, Krishna, he tried as hard as he could to pacify Srimati Radharani, but it was not successful. So often as he does, what does he do? He goes to Lalita Sakhi and he asks her to intervene. So fortunately, Lalita Sakhi was able to intervene and she asked Radharani to calm down. But then afterwards, once she calmed down and she pacified, Lalita Sakhi went back to Krishna and she chastised him. And she said, don't you ever make Srimati Radharani angry like that again. I'm not going to keep helping you. Just be on time and do what's required. So Krishna is very fearful of Lalita Sakhi. He said, yes, I'm sorry. And then everything was fine. And then after a few days, Radha and Krishna, they were sitting in a nice kunj and they were talking together. There were nice discussions. They were singing, they were laughing. And then Krishna said to Radharani, my dear Radharani, what if we switch roles? And instead of you doing man all the time, how about I do man once? So Srimati Radharani, she smiled at that idea. She's like, yeah, sure, let's switch roles. That might be fun. So they decided to switch roles. So Krishna will now become angry and Radharani will have to go and try to appease him. So Krishna joked and said, watch out, dear Radharani, it will not be easy to pacify me. So Srimati Radharani said, don't be too sure, Krishna. You know the strength of my love. So Krishna just smiled and he said, yes, we'll see. So right there and then where Krishna was sitting, he went into man and became very upset. And as much as Radharani tried to pacify Krishna, she was not successful. So she tried her best. It is written that she tried her best for 3 days and 3 nights. She tried to pacify Krishna and break his man. But it was impossible to break his man. And then, as we all know, when everything fails between Radha and Krishna, who intervenes? Srimati Lalita Sakhi. Yes, so Radharani now goes to Lalita Sakhi for help. But even then, she was unable to break Krishna's man. Even Lalita Sakhi couldn't do it. Then she turned to Vishakha. And she turned to Vishakha for help. And even Vishakha was not able to pacify Krishna. Now this plot became very thick. Then the Shastras say, Lalita and Vishakha together, they called 16,108 gopis to pacify Krishna. And even that plan failed. So then Srimati Radharani was so upset, she just broke down crying. And she cried and she cried and she cried. It is said she cried so much that her tears overflowed and they entered Yamuna River. And as soon as it entered Yamuna River, the Yamuna River started overflowing and the banks were overflowing with Radharani's tears. And then Yamuna Devi, herself personified, appeared before Srimati Radharani. And she said to Radharani very sweetly, she said, dear Radharani, your tears are causing me great pain. Please give me an order that I can pacify Krishna on your behalf so that you will stop crying. So then at that point, Srimati Radharani, she said, okay, Yamuna Devi, I'll grant you permission to go and pacify Krishna. And at that point, Yamuna Devi, she went to a nearby grove. And for some time, she was in there. And then she came out. When she came out, she came looking exactly like Krishna. We know that Yamuna Devi she has a color and complexion and countenance like Krishna. She is also dark colored. So she dressed herself as Krishna and she looked exactly like Krishna. But not only that, she had even expertly managed to manifest Krishna's beautiful features in her, even to the point that she was wearing the same shirt, the same skirt, the same pants, the same necklace and the crown as Shri Krishna. And she was also holding a lotus flower in her left hand. And with her right hand, it was the pose of lifting Govardhan hill. And it looked just like Krishna. And Yamuna Devi, then she decided to go and meet Krishna with this appearance, where she looked exactly like Krishna. So she went to the banks, other side of the banks of Yamuna, where Sri Krishna was sitting in man, and it is described that he was pouting there. So he went and she approached Krishna there. And when Krishna saw her, he became very attracted to his own form. He saw Yamuna Devi and he thought, oh wow, this looks just like me and I'm so attracted to this form. So Krishna said, oh dear one, please tell me who you are. I would really like to embrace you. And Yamuna Devi said, if you would like to attain me, then you must first give up your man and take full shelter of Srimati Radharani. So with that, Krishna gave up his man and he immediately agreed to give up his man, and then he went and he embraced Yamuna Devi. And after giving up his man, he bowed down to Srimati Radharani and he surrendered to her lotus feet. So in this particular Leela, by the arrangement of Purnamasi, that is Yogamaya, Yamuna Devi, she accomplished what even Lalita, Vishakha, Srimati Radharani and all the gopis of Vrindavan couldn't. So because Yamuna Devi was successful in pacifying Krishna, Srimati Radharani blessed her and she gave her this most wonderful blessing. She said, my dear Yamuna Devi, you are as dear to me as the lotus flowers which constantly decorate your waters. And also they are very dear to me. So from this day forth, I shall always hold one of your lotus flowers in my left hand, and I will bless you and all the other devotees who come before me with my right hand. And my dear devotees, it is for this reason that we see Srimati Radharani and Krishna in Radha London Ishwar temple and Radha Paris Ishwar temple with the lotus flower in the left hand, and their right hand is blessing Yamuna Devi and all the devotees who come there for darshan. So this was another very, very sweet pastime. And then we will dive into a very sweet pastime again of Srimati Radharani. We all know that Srimati Radharani is the queen of all the transcendental qualities. She's the queen of all the arts. She's the queen of all talents. But she's also the queen of the hearts of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And above all, she's the queen of Vrindavan. So we will take a small dip in the sweet pastime where Srimati Radharani was coronated as the queen of Vrindavan. This is very sweetly, this part is the initial part which I'll be explaining from Madhav Mahotsav, which is written by Srila Jiva Goswami. So this is a very beautiful book which is written by Jiva Goswami describing the coronation of Srimati Radharani as the queen of Vrindavan. So let's dive into it. It'll be a nice Leela, and since she's the queen of our hearts, let's listen to the queen of our Vrindavan. So today, let's make a point here that when Krishna was between the age of 7 to 11 years old, the age of Pauganda, he used to carry a black gold-capped staff in his hand. And why did he carry that staff? It was for 3 reasons. One was to control the cows and the calves. Second was to play fights with his friends. And third, to declare himself the eventual heir to Braj's throne. So these are the 3 reasons he carried that. In other words, he wanted to become the king of Vrindavan. So if Krishna is the king of Vrindavan, who is known as the queen of Vrindavan? It is none other than our Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani. So you could say actually she is the queen not only of Vrindavan, but she is the queen of everything. And everyone's favorite, everyone knows this favorite Sri Radha Kripa Kataksha. It is written by Lord Shiva. And in text 12, he writes this beautiful prayer. Makeshwari, Kriyeshwari, Swadeshwari, Sureshwari, Triveda Bharatishwari, Pramana Shashaneshwari, Rameshwari, Kshameshwari, Pramoda Kananeshwari, Vrajeshwari, Vrajadhipe, Shri Radhike Namostute, व्रजेश्वरी व्रजाधिपे श्री राधिके नमोस्तुते व्रजेश्वरी व्रजाधिपे श्री राधिके नमोस्तुते. So, O Makeshwari, what does it mean? O Makeshwari Radha, that is the queen of Vedic sacrifices, especially of the topmost Yugal Milan Yajna. O Kriyeshwari Radha, queen of all pious activities. O Swadeshwari Radha, queen of all that is natural and spontaneous. Sureshwari Radha, queen of the demigods and the goddesses. Triveda Bharatishwari Radha, the queen of all the three Vedas. Pramana Shashaneshwari Radha, the queen of all the enforcement of all the spiritual principles. Rameshwari Radha, the goddess of fortune. O Kshameshwari Radha, the queen who is very merciful and very forgiving. Pramoda Kananeshwari Radha, the queen of the most pleasurable forests of Vrindavan. O Vrajeshwari Radha, the queen of the entire realm of Vrindavan Dham, Vraj, especially the delightful Keli Kunjas of Vrindavan. O Vrajadhipe Radha, the owner on the maintenance and the one and only authority of Vrajadham. O Sri Radhika, I perpetually, forever offer my respectful obeisances unto you. How beautiful. This is such a beautiful prayer. So she, the queen of everything, and most importantly, the queen of Vrindavan, now is going to be coronated. So just when and how did Krishna become the king of Vrindavan, and when did Srimati Radharani become the queen of Vrindavan? So when was her coronation, and what more of things took place, and what happened? How did all this transpire? So we will start by touching with the pastime of coronation of Krishna. Now the crowning of Krishna as a queen of Vrindavan, as the king of Vrindavan, was in essence only a playful pastime, or you could say it's a pastime in the play pastimes of Krishna with his cowherd boyfriends. But with Radharani, it went very deep. It became a formal affair where entire Vrindavan and around Vrindavan, all the villages were involved. We will not go in the details of the coronation of Srimati Radharani, but we will go in the sweet, playful pastime where both Radha and Krishna were coronated. So when they were in this beautiful forest of Chhatravan, which literally means the forest of marvel and wonderment, Krishna's coronation took place. So the pastime begins where the cowherd boys, they're tending their cows in Chhatravan, and the boys were usually discussing how they might glorify Krishna. When all the cowherd boys come together, they're always Krishna conscious. They're always seeing how they can bring pleasure to Krishna, how they can play with Krishna, how they can make him laugh, how they can glorify him. And then suddenly Sri Dama suggested that let us coronate Krishna as the king of Braj. So all these boys became very blissful and they thought, let's do it. And they suddenly got busy and they started making all the arrangements for coronation of Krishna. And so they got some flowers, they got some stakes, and they started weaving with those stakes, and they started making these beautiful wreaths to put on Krishna's head as the crown. And after much preparation, the cowherd boys prepared a seat and they sat Krishna on this regal stone, which was, covered with flowers and various fruit baskets. And, it was very beautifully done. And there's a very sweet, playful pastime. Beneath that regal stone, they placed him on the regal stone beneath a canopy of beautiful flowers. And then they crowned him with a wreath of leaves and fresh buds. So that crown, it's like a wreath, and they crowned him. And then they all started singing these beautiful songs glorifying Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, they started singing. So Krishna, he very happily assumed the role of the new king. And then he appointed Madhumangal as the leader and the boy, as the main minister. And he told Madhumangal, now you boys, including Madhumangal, you all go and you all widely broadcast Krishna's new appointment as the king of Vraj. Go far and wide and announce to every resident, every bird, every tree, every creeper, and every animal that I am the king of Vraj. So Madhumangal and his friends, they set out and they wandered from forest to forest in Vrindavan, calling out. And they started saying, "Oh, residents of Vrindavan," they were calling out, "just hear that the only authority now in Vrindavan is the son of Nand Maharaj, Krishna, and he has been crowned as the king of this land. Anyone found unlawfully picking flowers or fruits shall be brought before him and severely punished. And if you disobey the king's authority in the slightest possible way, you will be dealt with very strictly and mercilessly." And these announcements were made everywhere in Vrindavan. And then Madhumangal proceeded. He addressed not only the residents and personalities, various gopis and gopas, but he also addressed the herd of deers. He addressed the flocks of the birds. He addressed the peacocks. He addressed the lions. He addressed all the aquatic animals like the fish. And everybody was very happy, undoubtedly and happily, without a single question. They happily accepted Krishna as the king. There was no second thoughts about it. And everyone was in agreement to Krishna being the king of Vrindavan, except a special group of devotees. Can you imagine who this group was? It was the group of gopis in the camp of Srimati Radharani. So there they were collecting some wild flowers. And as soon as they heard this news, they ran to Lalita Sakhi. And Lalita Sakhi was there. She was dressing Srimati Radharani. And as soon as she went there, she was told by her attendants what happened. And Lalita Sakhi was very lovingly decorating Srimati Radharani's hair in the forest grove there. And she was making, her wear her small wreath of crown and making Radharani's hair with buds. As soon as Lalita Devi heard this news, her face was red with anger. It flushed and her hands started trembling. She was, making a crown fit on Radharani's hair, and she couldn't bear it that Krishna was crowned as the king of Vrindavan. And she was upset. And as hard as she tried, she couldn't fix the flower crown upon Srimati Radharani's beautiful hair because she was just shaking too much with anger. And turning to her friends, Lalita Sakhi, she said, in reality, she said, we should see Radharani as the queen of Vrindavan. And how does it matter that some cowherd boys here and there, they come in this playing mood and they have this make-believe king and foolishly think that we can be subjugated by these dumb forest animals and these cowherd boys. So she was not willing to accept Krishna. And then Lalita Sakhi, she held the crown and playfully above Srimati Radharani's head, she announced with a smile. She said, "Let this crown made of the forest treasures proclaim Braj's real monarch, the queen of Vrindavan." And she placed the crown on Srimati Radharani's head playfully. She also did that. So, and the gopis, as soon as the crown was placed, the gopis cheered, and Lalita Sakhi ordered Vrinda Devi. And she said, "Oh friend, at once," she said, "assemble a full battalion of gopis to capture these rascals, these cowherd boys who are making this nonsense proclamation, and immediately go and call Krishna." So then Srimati Radharani smiled and she said, "Those who falsely claim authority over my kingdom should be challenged. They should be not only challenged, they should be defeated. They should be bound by hands and they should be brought before me for a punishment." So Srimati Radharani was all ready to punish those boys, cowherd boys. So Vrinda Devi, she armed thousands of gopis. She brought thousands of gopis there and she armed them with flower batons. We have swords in the material world and we have guns. But here in Vrindavan, in Vraj Leela, what are the weapons for the gopis and the cowherd boys? They are flower batons. They are sticks which are, soft sticks which are covered with flowers. And they beat each other with that. And they all took the flower batons, thousands of gopis, and they set for Chhatravan to beat up the cowherd boys. And on the way, while they were going, they encountered Subala, they encountered Madhumangal and all the other gopas who were proclaiming. And they were going on proclaiming the king is Krishna, the king is Krishna. So they came across this huge battalion of gopis with the flower batons. And suddenly the boys found themselves surrounded by these thousands of gopis. So the boys were very few in number, and the gopis were in thousands, and they were angry. Can you imagine? One angry wife can make the husband shiver, but thousands of gopis and few cowherd boys, you can imagine what their situation must be. And all the boys fled in fear. Everyone ran away except Madhu Mangal. He was not able to run because his size is a little big and he is fat and he's not that agile, and he wasn't able to escape. So he was captured by the gopis, and they bound his hands and they bound his legs with flower garlands, and they started pulling him. So this is Vrindavan. The capturer is always bound with flowers, and this is Vrindavan. And then he was brought before Srimati Radharani. And as soon as he came before Srimati Radharani, she spoke to him and she said, I am the real authority over this land, but you promote an impostor as a ruler of my kingdom. For that offense, Srimati Radharani is telling Madhu Mangal, you must be punished. And as soon as your friend and rascal leader will come, they will also be punished. So Srimati Radharani was very angry with Madhu Mangal. Then Madhu Mangal, he hung his head in shame. He was like, what should I do? I'm caught by all these gopis. And he whispered very defiantly. He knew that he was going to be in for a punishment. So he said, okay, he said, make my punishment such that my belly is always full. Never starve me. So let some punishment be there where I have enough food. And then hearing this, Radharani was frowning. She was like, what kind of a Brahman he is? He has no control over his tongue. And then she was disgusted with him. She said, release this fake Brahman. He's only interested in filling his belly, and send him away with a message to his king or his would-be king, that tell him to give up his false title. She told Madhu Mangal, tell Krishna to give up his false title or he will have to pay a price for that. And then with his hands and legs still bound behind him, Madhu Mangal left and he went back to Chhatravan to meet Krishna and give the news. So Krishna was waiting very eagerly for Madhu Mangal to come. So when Madhu Mangal arrived, Krishna rose from his throne and he embraced Madhu Mangal and he inquired from Madhu Mangal, how is everything going? How is the proclamation going? Have you announced everywhere that I am the king? So Madhu Mangal was very grave. He explained everything. His hands were still in the shackles of the garlands behind him. His legs were tied. And he said, I got beaten up pretty bad, Krishna. And this is what has happened to me. This is what the gopis did. And they beat me up with flower batons. They tied me up with these garlands. And he explained the whole situation to Krishna that took place between him and Radharani and the gopis. And Krishna said, how could this have happened to Madhu Mangal? How? So Madhu Mangal then replied, well, this is the result of our proclaiming you the king of Vrindavan. But I think, he said to Krishna after a pause, he said, but I think, the truth is the real monarch of this land, as far as I have seen, is Srimati Radharani. We cannot win over her. So we have challenged Srimati Radharani's authority. And unless you, Krishna, surrender to her, I fear that you too will meet the same fate that I have met. You will be beaten up by flower batons and you'll be tied up with garlands and will be thrown into the kunds. So please save us. So my friend, he told Krishna, Madhu Mangal said, I beg you to abandon your impudence. Don't do this and give up this crown. We have to give all respect to Srimati Radharani because she is actually the monarch, the true monarch of Vrindavan. So Krishna took this very seriously. He considered this situation like maybe let's try going to a war with the gopis. And then he smiled. At this point, when he smiled, Shastras say that surrendering to Srimati Radharani, he thought, might be more thrilling than defying her or fighting with her. So what happened? So Krishna decided, okay, he'll not fight because maybe surrendering would be more thrilling. So very soon, Krishna, Madhumangal, and all the cowherd boys, they set out to Srimati Radharani's camp, where Srimati Radharani was waiting for all of them. And we all know that in Vrindavan, there are no secrets. Vrinda Devi has her set of parrots, and they act as spies. So Radha's spies had already informed Krishna, about Krishna's arrival to Srimati Radharani. And there is no secret in Vrindavan because of these parrots. Everything is transmitted everywhere. So they had already spilled the beans that Krishna is coming to surrender. But Shastras say that Radharani was actually very happy, because she was very happy that she was going to meet Krishna that day. And upon seeing Krishna approaching Srimati Radharani, her face turned pale, and then her limbs started trembling, and tears began to come from her eyes. Her eyes welled up. So Lalita Sakhi is very haughty. She noticed that something is going wrong. Now Radharani is going to become weak. She's the queen of Vrindavan. And when Krishna comes and he surrenders his crown, she cannot be crying like this. So Srimati Radharani, she reassured Radharani by holding her forearm. And she said, "Dear one, dear Radha, please be steady. Please do not cry. To accept surrender from a defeated rival, you must display regal composure, befitting a victorious monarch. You're victorious queen. So don't cry in front of him." So Radharani tried to calm down. She kept telling herself. So she took a deep breath and she addressed her mind and she said, "Okay, Radharani." Radharani was talking to her own self. She said, "Please be calm. Your desires of being a queen will soon be fulfilled." And then it is written that Krishna, as he approached Srimati Radharani's grove, where all the gopi camp was, he was blinded by the golden radiance of Srimati Radharani as he came forward. He couldn't see. As soon as he entered the kunj, there was so much golden effulgence emanating from the body of Srimati Radharani. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priya. She is the most dear to Lord Hari. And as he entered and he started walking towards, he couldn't see anything, and he started chanting Radha's name. Radhe, Hey Radhe, Hey Radhe. And as he chanted Radharani's name, the glare faded and it revealed the most beautiful form of Srimati Radharani, who was sitting there on a jeweled throne. Surrounding Radharani were thousands of gopis, and they were all armed with flower weapons, because they all thought that maybe this Krishna, he changes his mind and he attacks our Srimati Radharani, the queen of Vrindavan. So we should all be ready with flower weapons. So they all had weapons ready. And seeing this, Krishna got scared. He said, "Oh, you know what? It was a good decision. I did well by deciding not to, test my Gopa army against such superior military force, which was standing behind Srimati Radharani." So he, took a deep breath and he was very happy with the decision he made. And then he got close to Srimati Radharani. And as he got close to her, Krishna turned pale. His limbs started stiffening and he froze, and his tracks froze there, and streams of tears started flowing from his eyes. And this is a very beautiful description we are hearing of Sri Vrindavan Dham by our acharyas. This is what takes place. Radha and Krishna both display ecstatic symptoms when they take darshan of each other. And seeing Krishna like this, Madhu Mangal whispered in Krishna's ears. So first Lalita Sakhi was trying to compose Srimati Radharani. Here, seeing Krishna like this, Madhu Mangal started whispering in Krishna's ears. And he said, "Oh, my love-struck friend, don't let a few moments of happiness deprive you of the feast of bliss awaiting you at Srimati Radharani's side. So just control your heart and keep walking." So Madhu Mangal was thinking of the big feast that was going to come, because they were going to surrender, and he knew the big feast, he would get a lot of laddus. Manohar laddu was his favorite, and he would get lots of sweets and meats and yummy things to eat. So he's telling Krishna, "Stop all this, tears, so that we can quickly have the feast. So control your heart and keep walking, Krishna." So Krishna came back to his composure. And then when he came close enough to the gopis for them to hear his footsteps, Srimati Radharani, she thought that I'm the most fortunate. Not only can I see Krishna's enchanting form, but I can also hear the tinkling of his ankles. And as Radha and Krishna met, they came in front of each other, and Madhu Mangal and Lalita Sakhi, they exchanged notable glances. So why? Because all the residents of Braj, all the gopis, all the gopas, they facilitate and they want to facilitate the meeting of Radha and Krishna. So all the conflict between everyone had almost resolved because they had come there. Then, holding Krishna's hand, Madhu Mangal cleared his throat and he playfully addressed Srimati Radharani. And he said, Madhu Mangal said, "O powerful queen of Vrindavan, Vrindavaneshwari, I have advised my friend Krishna, the prince of Nandagram, to submit to your royal authority. Following my wise counsel, he has now come before you and he is willing to surrender unconditionally at your lotus feet." So Madhu Mangal looked at Krishna and then Radharani before continuing. And then he said, as a token of his subservience, Krishna will offer his most valuable possession, not his crown, but he will give his priceless embrace to you. And so please graciously accept this priceless embrace from Krishna. So at this, when he said all this, all the gopis and all the gopas started giggling. And stepping forward, Madhu Mangal, he took the wreath of flower, the crown from Krishna's head, and he placed that wreath at the feet of Srimati Radharani. And then Krishna, he took out his flute, he laid his flute also at the feet of Srimati Radharani. He knelt down on his knees before Srimati Radharani with folded hands. And then the cowherd boys who had come with Krishna, they loudly started proclaiming Sri Radha as the queen of Vrindavan. They all started saying, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki jai, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki jai. And there was all the proclamation and they were all singing the glories of Srimati Radharani as the queen of Vrindavan. And there she said to Krishna that, and then they said that she is Krishna's queen as well, not only the queen of Vrindavan, but she is also the queen of Krishna. Then Radharani motioned for Krishna to come and sit beside her. And Radharani, as she motions, Krishna came there happily and subserviently. He came and he obediently sat next to Srimati Radharani. And now in the meanwhile, Madhu Mangal was dancing around in great happiness because, now he was awaiting the feast. And then Lalita Sakhi was also pleased with Madhu Mangal. And to show her gratitude, she shoved into her, bag and she took out a plump laddu and she shoved it in his mouth. And then Madhu Mangal munched on it and he mumbled, "So you committed a great offense," she told, Madhu Mangal is telling Lalita, "You committed a great offense by, shackling a Brahmana. I'm a Brahmana and you shackled me with all those garlands, you tied me up. So now as a prayashchit, you have to feed me 100,000 laddus and only then perhaps you will be freed from all your sins, O Lalite." So Lalita Sakhi smiled and she said, "Okay, I'm sorry, Madhu Mangal." And then she ordered a large tray of sweets to be brought and given to and fed to Madhu Mangal. And he went somewhere and ate all of it. And after excusing himself, he doesn't like to share his sweets. So he took the whole tray and then he went and said, "I have some important business to do." And he went in some grove and he happily ate all the sweets. And everyone there was laughing. It's called Hasya Ras. Everyone was drowned in Hasya Ras. And now it was getting late. So everyone at the end of the day, they turned to go home and they left and they reminisced about this beautiful, playful pastime that had taken place that day, where Srimati Radharani was declared as the queen of Vrindavan, happily accepted by everyone, including Krishna. So after this also, there are nice series of events that take place that where Srimati Radharani is crowned as the queen of Vrindavan. So we will not go deep in those. That's a different topic altogether. So let us all conclude these sweet pastimes by glorifying Srimati Radharani. And this beautiful verse comes from the illustrious book written by Srila Prabhupada Saraswati. And this book is written and it's called Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhi. And This beautiful prayer is written by him. So let us all meditate on these prayers which are written by Acharyas in glorification of Srimati Radharani. So it goes like this. Vrindani sarvamahitam apahaya durad vrindatavim anusara pranayena chetim sattarini krita subhava sudhara saugham radha bidhanam iha divya niha namaste. What does this prayer mean? The translation of this prayer is, dear heart, please turn away from the great things of this world and run to Vrindavan, where the greatest treasure is present, the nectar flood that delivers the devotee from the world. And what is that? That is Sri Radhanam, the name of Srimati Radharani. And there's another very beautiful verse written by Raghunath Das Goswami in his Tavavali. It goes like this. Bhajami Radha Arvinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smitasyam Vadami Radha Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanyasti Gatir Nakapi. It means that I worship Srimati Radharani, who has the eyes like lotus petals. Bhajami Radha Arvinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smitasyam means I remember Srimati Radharani, Smaran karta hu. Remember Srimati Radharani, whose face is sweetly smiling. And I speak of her, whose heart is melting with compassion. Vadami Radha Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanyasti Gatirna Kapi. My life has no purpose other than serving her lotus feet. So with this, we will end our discussion. And thank you so much. I really enjoyed sharing all of these pastimes of Srimati Radharani. But we have to remember the mood in which these pastimes should be approached. We also spoke about that. And wish you all a very happy Radhashtami tomorrow. And I hope all of you will forgive me if I have committed any mistakes and offer a small prayer for me, so that I am purified by these leelas, and I hope I have not made any offenses to anyone during this topic, speaking of this topic, because as I said, speaking about Srimati Radharani is a very lofty topic, and because I was given this service by Her Grace Priti Vilasani Mataji, I tried my best to do justice to it. Jai Shri Radhe, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Radhashtami Mahamahotsav ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Radhabhava Mataji ki jai. What a wonderful Mataji. We are completely immersed in Radharani's pastimes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very, very nectarian class. And the story you narrated is very, very wonderful, Mataji. And especially I like the concept of shringar science, Mataji. Can you elaborate, if possible, Mataji, more?
Mataji, it goes a little deeper. I have to study them a little more, but this was a little more superficial. But maybe some other time I could share a little more in that.
Sure, Mataji, sure. No. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So now the forum is open for questions and answer. And before that, it's a general request to all the devotees present on the call to please refrain your questions just related to our class only, to our topic only. And if you have any personal questions, we can ask personally, Mataji. So now because these classes are recorded and shared on many other forums. So that's the reason we request everyone to stick to the questions related to class only. So with this saying, so I have seen some raised hands. So Mataji, Preeti Mataji, yeah, please go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Radhabhava Mataji. It's such a pleasure to have you on this call, and it was a beautiful, beautiful session with so many beautiful pastimes of Srimati Radharani. Wonderful Braj Katha. It was really immersing, Mataji. Thank you so much. Like Shamsupriya Mataji mentioned, really like the
how the decorations and the ornamentations should be different signals, the way you were mentioning that and all the lovely stories. It was really wonderful, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to hear from you. It was really an amazing class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Preeti Mataji. So now we will go to Swati Mataji. Swati Mataji, please, you can go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam or Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class, Mataji. Mataji, I have two questions. First question, when Kamsa stayed in 6 months, why is not got purified and he is not desired to stay always? Because it is because so many devotees aspiring that service and he got without any endeavor, and that is Radharani's mercy. So first my question is that, and is he serving in Madhuri Lila in spiritual world also, or how it is? And my second question is, Mataji, I forgot. Oh Krishna, I forgot.
Okay. So let me start by answering the first question. So he did not, like I mentioned, he did not have the right mood. His mood was still. So we can also have Krishna consciousness around us, but we need the good fortune from our previous karmas to take up to Krishna consciousness, and we get a chance to improve our consciousness and become Krishna conscious. But because Kamsa from his past karmas was very demoniac, it was very difficult for him to get purified even in Barsana Dham. And also to be a part of the Leela, Radharani wished it like that, because if he would have become purified and become Kamsini Gopi and gone back to Godhead, how would Krishna have become victorious and the king of Mathura, and how would the future Braj Leelas manifest? So one is he was part of a Leela, and second is his karmas were not good enough that he could be purified even staying in Barsana Dham.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Kirtida Mataji, please go ahead, Mataji. Kirtida Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much, Shyamasupriya Mataji. Thank you so much, Radhabhava Mataji, for the beautiful class. Fantastic class, I should say. I know you were a little hesitant in speaking on the glories of Srimati Radharani, which is definitely not a subject matter on which at least person like me can speak, but you did really a good job, Mataji. Thank you so much for narrating so many beautiful pastimes. I just have one thing that you were saying, that in Radha Landanishwar, Radharani has a lotus flower in her right hand. So she always carries a lotus flower, or devotees put a lotus flower or give her a lotus flower, or maybe a branches of flowers?
She in her left hand, she has a lotus flower. It is made in such a way that she has a lotus flower.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I was thinking, because our presiding deities are also the same thing, like she has something to hold. Whether devotees can put a basket of flowers or some bouquet or some garland, and her right hand is always giving a blessing. So I was just curious to know about that. But thank you so much, Radha Mataji. Beautiful session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Most welcome.
Thank you, Kirtida Mataji. Then we will move on to Vaishali Mataji. Please go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna, Radhabhava Mataji, Koti Koti Dandat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Mataji, you take us in Shidam Vrindavan Dham, Sisi, you take us in Sisi Raval Dham, Sisi Balsana Dham, and Srimati Shri Radharani is the king of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Well, when we enter in Shidam Vrindavan Dham, all the rickshaw wala and all the bicycle people and all the vehicles, those who are, they all just give a signal with the leg and say Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe. Everybody is saying Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. And Shri Radha Landaneshwari, Shri Radha Pariswari, and Kansa get chance to serve Srimati Shri Radharani. Srimati Shri Radharani give a position of gopis, but he don't understand the value of love of Shri Balsana Dham and love of Srimati Shri Radharani and mercy of Srimati Shri Radharani. Thank you, Mataji, and all the Srimati Shishi Vrinda Devi Sloka and Mataji, so deep devotional association, Shishi Lalita Shaki, Shishi Vishaka Saki, Koti Koti Danvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam, Shri Ram Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Koti Koti Danvat Pranam, Ajji Radhabhava. Thank you very much for taking us in a dham. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Mataji, you're most welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Now we will move to Sudevi Mataji. Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I loved the class and the last story was very funny. Krishna became the king and then Radharani switched and that was very funny, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, in the song it says, Kshameshwari, Radharani is very forgiving. But to Kamsini Gopi, she didn't forgive, right? Only when Vrijabhanu Maharaj told her to forgive, then only she forgave very reluctantly. So how is that, Mataji?
So, like I said, if she had forgiven Kamsa, then the Leela would have ended. There's some pastimes which are meant only for Leela. So this was a Leela pastime where Kamsini Gopi, Kamsa became a Gopi. If she would have forgiven him, he would have come back again to Barsana, and entered, and he would have destroyed Barsana. He would have killed the residents of Barsana. So in order to teach him a lesson, she had to come to a point where, he was convinced that she is the controller of Barsana Dham. No influence can ever stay on Barsana Dham because Srimati Radharani is the queen there. So she established this very clearly by giving him an unforgivable punishment. And only when her father put in a word saying, let him go, then she let him go. So it was a part of the Leela, and also it was like a part of the punishment because Kamsa is a demon and she knew that he had been attacking all the residents of Vrindavan again and again and again. And he was not somebody who was going to be forgiven and who was going to, turn tables and be a nice person back again. He was still going to go and he was still going to attack, which he did. Even after forgiving, he went back to Mathura and his games and plots against Krishna and Rajvasi started again. Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Now we'll move to Rashmi Mataji's question. Rashmi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class. Mataji, I'm from India, Hyderabad, Mataji. My actually question is that when was this Leela happened? Kamsa Maharaj, he was killed later when Krishna was probably 11 years. So when he entered Barsana Dham, so what was the age of Srimati Radharani? When this Leela took place?
So the Leela which I mentioned between the age of 7 to 11 is unrelated. They're two different Leelas. So this Leela was way before that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
This Leela is mentioned in Garga Samhita about Kamsini Gopi.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, Mataji. And one more thing, Mataji, in our temple, Hyderabad ISKCON, we have Sri Radha Madan Mohan and exactly the same description of Srimati Radharani, what you have described. With her right hand, she is blessing and her left hand, she is holding a lotus flower. So I always had this in my mind, why our Radharani, she is not offering any garland to Krishna. So today I got to know this beautiful pastime. Thank you, Mataji. I was about to ask this question, but then immediately you shared this pastime. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam. Koti Koti Pranam.
Dandavad.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Now we will move to Swati Mataji's question. Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji. My second question is why Lalita Sashti comes 2 days before? Because Lalita Devi is the 27 days older than Radharani, right? So we celebrate according to the Putana when drop the babies, that according to or how we celebrate Lalita Sashti. And yes, Mataji, please go ahead first.
We celebrate Lalita Shashti a day before Radhashtami because she is born one day before Radharani.
Okay.
Yeah. That is why it's Lalita Shashti is celebrated. She is born one day before Radharani.
But then how can she will be 27 days older than Radharani?
I'm not aware of that. Let me find that out. I'm not aware of that fact. But per Tithis, always Lalita Shashti is a day before Radhashtami.
Okay. And Mataji, like when the Lalita Devi is decorating Radharani, so the ornaments and also basically who arranges, Vrinda Devi or Lalita Devi? Because when she decorate Radharani means she is specifically she is making the plans that this time this Radha Krishna will be meet and all, right? Means just I want to get clear idea because Vrinda Devi arranges everything in Krishna Leela. I'm little bit.
So Vrinda Devi orchestrates the meetings. She plans and she programs where they will meet, how they will meet, what time they will meet, what is a safe period. And Lalita Sakhi, Vishaka Sakhi, all the Ashta Sakhis, they are involved in dressing Srimati Radharani, and the Manjaris assist the the Sakhis. So Manjaris and Sakhis, they are involved in meticulously dressing up Srimati Radharani. Vrinda Devi makes the arrangements externally for Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Like she'll make sure the groove is ready, it's all well decorated, and the timing is right. So orchestration of their meetings, where they will meet, how they will meet, how the groove should be, all the arrangements, waking them up on time, making sure they are going back on time, hiding from Jatila Kutila, all that Vrinda Devi will assist. But dressing of Srimati Radharani is done by the Manjaris and the Sakhis.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
I'll find out about this 27-day difference. Per Tithi, I just know that Lalita Shashti is before Radhashtami, but I'm not aware. I will find out and get back to you, Swati.
Okay, thank you so much, Mataji, for wonderful class. Hare Krishna. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Mataji. Kirtida Mataji, please go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Radhabhava Mataji, is it okay if I can add something on it?
Sure, Mataji, please.
Mataji, this question came up that what is this Lalita Shashti? And yes, Lalita Sakhi is elder than Srimati Radharani, definitely more than 20-25 days. Then this question came up, and then His Holiness Giriraj Swami, on Facebook, he actually posted that this Lalita Shashti is not the appearance day of Srimati Lalita Devi.
Oh, really?
Is actually Lalita also is the another name of Durga Devi. So in Bengal, they used to celebrate this Lalita Shashti, means the 6th day of the appearance of Durga Devi. So this is how he said that actually this is related to that custom which comes as Lalita Shashti.
Wonderful. Thank you for throwing so much revelation on this. Thank you, Kirtida Sundari.
Maybe I can find out that post and share it, but Maharaj posted on his group on Facebook.
Wonderful. See, Swati, here's your answer. Kirtida Sundari Mataji has wonderfully answered your answer. Thank you so much, Mataji. That was a good piece of information which I was not aware of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kirtida Mataji, and thank you so much, Radhabhava Mataji. Mataji, do you have some more time, Mataji?
I think we will end the session. I have to resume work.
Okay, sure. Mataji, last question. Can I ask you, Mataji?
Yes.
Okay, last question only. Mataji, we see now we know the importance of Radharani, and we know all. Mataji, I had a question like this, personal question. In the month of Kartik, like the last day of the Kartik, we see Tulasi Vivaha. But in any of the scriptures or in any other way, we don't see the actual like marriage between Radharani and Krishna. So can you say something on this, Mataji?
Okay, so it's a very deep topic, and a lot of questions will be raised. But all I can say is Radharani and Krishna are in Parakiya Bhav. They are married for, there are some instances where they are married in the Dham. They get married, but they're actually in Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, the mood is Parakiya Bhav. So they are not married. So Radharani is married to the shadow of Abhimanyu, who is Krishna himself. Radharani is married to Abhimanyu, who is Krishna's shadow. So that is the mood maintained in Vrindavan. The mood of Vraj is Parakiya Bhav. They are actually not married. There's love in separation. That is the bhav that is maintained in Vrindavan and in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, which we follow.
Okay, Mataji. Okay. Mataji, I cannot stop asking you only just one more question, Mataji. I beg your forgiveness, Mataji. Mataji, we see that Krishna has 8 wives, and we see Ashtasakis, we see Radharani, and we see this Radharani like Radhashtami, like Lalita Shashti. We celebrate all these days. But when coming to the wives of Krishna, like Rukmini, Satyabhama, we don't celebrate any of their days, or we don't see any of their specific days to celebrate their appearances or marriage. Like how it is happening, Mataji. We don't see any kind of not importance, but we don't see any kind of this special days for them, like Rukmini Mata, like Satyabhama, Jambavati. We see all these Ashta, like say 8 wives of Krishna.
Yeah. So when I began the lecture, I had mentioned a prayer. Devi Krishna Mai Prokta, Radhika Para Devata, Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva, Kanti Samohini Para. That means Srimati Radhika, who is non-different from Krishna, she is called Radhika. That's why she's considered the topmost. And she, who's non-different from Krishna, who shines brilliantly, is most worshipable even by Mother Lakshmi and all the goddesses of fortune. She is actually the one who completely bewilders Krishna. So because she is not different from Krishna, she is Krishna's Ladini Shakti, she is Krishna's topmost worshipable queen. No one is in comparison to her. And all other wives of Krishna, one, they are out of Vrindavan, they are in Dwarka Leela, and 2, they are expansions of Lakshmi, which is also Srimati Radharani. But the original candle, like we explained, as one candle, it can light thousands of candles, but the first candle always remains original. So Srimati Radharani is the topmost goddess of fortune, and that one candle that's why most superior. So only her glories, and Vrindavan is very closest confidential playground of Krishna and Radharani. So nothing outside Vraj Leela is as important as Vraj Leela.
Oh, got it, Mataji. Now understood. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Very wonderful, Mataji. I'm very, very sorry, Mataji. We have Bhakti Sangha raised hand. We have Parma Mataji. I beg your forgiveness, Mataji. I don't know how much time we have left, but there are 2 raised hands, Mataji.
Mataji, I think we'll end today.
Okay.
I have a televisit starting from 1 p.m. and I have to get ready.
Okay. Sure, Mataji.
So sorry, but maybe some other session we can take more questions.
Okay, Mataji. Okay. So with this note, Mataji, I'm very, very thankful on all the behalf of Bhakti Sangha and all the devotees on the call. So with this, I would like to pay my obeisances to you and all the devotees on the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, राधाष्टमी महामहोत्सव की जय, राधाभाव माता जी की जय। Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.